All right, here we go. Tuesday, May 15th. Sports Bit Betting Inside today. Paulie and Teddy. We start our division previews, team previews in the NFL. AFC East up first, and the Buffalo Bills. They made the playoffs last year. They're 6.5. New quarterback, some changes there. We'll talk about the Bills. Play of the day coming up. We'll turn the shot clock on. Loaded show coming up. And the best and worst thing we heard yesterday as far as sports betting legalization. We'll get to all that coming up. Bad beats, bad bet. Oh, of course, Game 2, Eastern Conference Finals. Boston 37-0 all time when they lead a series 2-0. Can they go up 2-0 tonight? You always got to get the best number. Warriors, Rockets total open 224, got as high as 226. We'll call it 225.5. For whatever reason, the Rockets fouled down 11 with 12 seconds left. It falls 225. Incredible finish. The Warriors, much the best. Remember, the best team in the third quarter in the regular season. They did it again in the playoffs. They did it last night. They came out and outscored the Rockets, and they steal Game 1. And Houston supporting cast, as we talked about the series preview last week and a little bit yesterday, the supporting cast stunk. They got nothing out of Mbamute, Tucker, or Ariza. Ariza was battling foul trouble. And as far as Anderson and Mbamute, I don't know how many minutes they can give these guys. Mbamute missed 3 bunnies in that game and didn't score.
Sure, lots of missed layups for the Rockets, which was certainly good for underbettors. From a point spread perspective, the key story on this game is clearly the total. They were at 210 with a minute and a half to play and of a comfortable Golden State lead. This game wasn't supposed to sneak over for anybody, but it did thanks to that late foul, as you mentioned. And that's not a great result for the house when it bounces between 224 and 226 all day and lands 225 or right in the middle. Yeah, that's a tough beat if you had a bad number and a bad result for bookmakers, both here in Las Vegas and offshore when it came to the total. When it came to the side, I mean, you're reading the quotes out of Golden State, man, they sound scary right now. Draymond Green, it's the best time of year, playing for all the marbles. We're trying to win a championship. There's no reason not to lock in. The further you get along, the better it gets. The quotes for a Warriors team that, look, going into the postseason, there were clear issues. Would they lose 10 of their last 17 games in the regular season? They seemed all banged up. Well, when you look at the way they took away 82 games to create that home court advantage, the way they took it away last night, and Houston running all those isolation sets, one after the next, James Harden, 45 isolation plays in Game 1. The most by any team in any game, regular season or playoffs over the last 5 seasons. Wasn't good basketball to watch. Wasn't good basketball on the floor, and it didn't result in a Rockets victory. The team that's been there before, acting like they've been there before, Golden State, with a 1-0 series edge. But what do you think, Paulie? It feels to me like this series is already over.
Yeah, minus 550 adjusted series price, and that's how the Rockets play. That's what got them 65 wins, number 2 offense in the league, just behind Golden State. So the supporting cast has to help out. So Harden was struggled defensively, but at 41 points, it was a strange game. But also 13 threes apiece. Remember, Houston had outscored opponents 13.8 points from 3 during the playoffs as well. 13.8 points per game from 3. So that's how sharp the bookmakers are. The prop was 26.5, and it finished 26 for made threes. They got to get tomorrow or the season's over, because now you're going to have to – how many games you're going to have to win? Probably have to win at least 2, maybe more in Golden State, and they've won 15 in a row in the playoffs at home, tied for the NBA record. So this is a tough task, and they have nobody that can check Durant. No surprise there.
Well, I mean, Golden State – excuse me. The pedigree is there, Paulie. When you have the rings, you know what it takes to dig down and get the next one. Houston, we talked about it repeatedly in the lead up to this series. A bunch of guys that have had great careers, but haven't been able to get over the hump. And they just made it a whole lot harder for themselves with last night's loss. Bottom line, Golden State a right side winner. Total, the better bettors won. The less better bettors, not so much, pushed or lost in that contest. But minus 550 for Golden State after game one, I think it's cheap.
The Brewers and Diamondbacks total was 8. Tough beat here. 2 outs in the ninth. A 2-out, 2-run home inside the park home run makes it 7-2 in that one. Diamondbacks going through a funk now as they have a losing streak, and the A's over from 9 to 9.5. They beat the Red Sox. It's the first game with Manaea that went over. 7-1 of the under now as finally one of his starts go over. And look at Carrasco taking all that money, a 60-cent move on the Indians, 210 up to 270, and the Indians lose again.
What do you say to someone who has a Brewers under 8 ticket in their pocket, and there's 2 outs in the ninth inning, and you have not just a home run, an inside the frickin' park home run with 2 outs in the ninth to kill your under? That's tough. That is really tough. We'll call that a bad beat. And you talked about Cleveland. I mean, they were bet up, 60-cent move towards the Indians yesterday against the frickin' Tigers. Yeah. That's 2 days after they blew that 9-4 lead against Kansas City, where I had them on the run line and I was about ready to strangle somebody. Indians are now 20-20, and they're costing their backers, on average, 25 cents a game. They've been a bad bet more than once this season. They certainly were last night.
All right, game 2 coming up tonight. We'll get to that in a second. Before game 2, it's lottery time, Teddy. Ping pong ball action. Phoenix, the best odds to get the number 1 pick, 25%. Memphis, number 2. Dallas, Atlanta, Orlando, Chicago, Sac, and the Cavs as they get the pick from the Nets. How about this? The 76ers, I know it's Dumb and Dumber, so you're telling me there's a chance. The 76ers could get the number 1 pick in the draft. If the Lakers get the number 1 pick, it goes to Philly. And if the pick falls between 2 and 5, it goes to Boston. How about that? That they have to give that up. And the 76ers, trust the process, have the 26th pick and have 4 second-round picks as well, in addition to where they could be picking again in the first round. We'll see where this pick lands with the Lakers shenanigans.
And the most amazing thing to me about tanking is that after all the tanking, Phoenix accomplished their goal. They lost all the games they were supposed to lose. They got blown out by all the other lottery teams. And after all of that, after putting your fans through a nightmare, they get a 25% chance to get the number 1 overall pick. No one would be shocked. They're dogs to get it if somebody else moves up in the lottery and knocks Phoenix down a spot or 2. Yep. You know, I'm not a big fan of the tanking process. And certainly the NBA has to, we've been saying it for 20 years, they got to do something about fixing the draft lottery. Having half the league trying to lose their games to get a bunch of ping pong balls is a little bit ridiculous.
Well, I think they did. It starts next year as the 3 worst teams are now they all have 14% chance to get the number 1 pick as they changed that for next year. Dumbest thing you heard yesterday out of all this. I did several interviews. I watched TV a lot. I turn on SportsCenter at 3 o'clock Pacific. The second question to a legal analyst was, how concerned are you about players and athletes betting on games in New York and New Jersey? He says that's a big concern. I mean, this is ridiculous. My co-host was asked about what if, a player tipping his friends off about missed free throw props and maybe trying to bet $100,000 on that and $50,000. I mean, people think you can show up with a duffel bag and bet whatever you want on props. And I mean, not to mention the fact that these guys are making astronomical salaries. The example I gave yesterday was Jeff Green, who's, I would say, below average and jumps from team to team, made $15 million last year. I mean, DeMar DeRozan makes $27 million a year. You think he's missing a free throw to try to scoop $4,000? I mean, this is lunacy here, what these people think about athletes. Oh, no, athletes are going to bet now, and you might see some fixing here.
Okay, so there was certainly a lot of dumb mainstream opinions. Of course there's going to be dumb mainstream opinions because there was nothing but limited information and misinformation about sports betting in the mainstream marketplace basically forever. But the biggest thing that shocked me yesterday was a couple of things. I mean, people I respect. Roxy Roxburgh on Twitter. Oh, don't worry, this will sail through Congress. No problem. Congress is going to fix this. That there's going to be an easy peasy bill that just sails through the House, sails through the Senate. Everyone's going to sign it. Problem solved. Sports betting legalized and regulated throughout the U.S. I'll take the over on when that happens. I do not expect, as with any legislation, it is a convoluted, long, difficult process. We're not going to see the murkiness around the striking down of the anti-PAPSA bill, that is not going to immediately result in, wow, sports betting everywhere for everyone right away. It's just not going to happen that way. Easy peasy. It's not sailing through Congress. It might limp through Congress, but it's not sailing through Congress. I don't think so anyway.
How about your buddy Orrin Hatch? Huh? How about what he was up to? 84 years old. One of the 4 guys who came up with PASPA, too, saying he's worried about the integrity of the game. Can't have this. Looking for an anti-gaming betting bill.
Well, I mean, we'll give Orrin Hatch credit because it has to be done. On a federal level, something has to be done. At least Orrin Hatch isn't burying his head in the sand. I'll give him credit for that. Although, again, what kind of legislation does Washington put together? And how good is it? How quickly does it come through? I'll take the over on how long it takes and the under on how good the legislation is. And bad legislation, a bad bill, will keep every bookie in business, every offshore in business, and the legalized gaming revenue will be minuscule compared to what it could be if they just follow Nevada's model and do it right.
Well, we'll see what happens. Uncharted waters here. And it could be the wild, wild west. Who knows if Congress gets involved and how long that takes. Dan Wetzel from Yahoo Sports said it was a bad day for the mob. That remains to be seen. Who knows what this will happen. And we'll see the days of $1.10 disappearing as well.
Like the show? Help us keep the lights on. Please make sure to comment, share, and subscribe to all the Sportsbook Review videos. Thanks so much. Best of luck. Enjoy the games.